Welcome to Penn State Dickinson Law's Profiles in Leadership series. My name is Darrell Lim. I serve as the H. Laddie Montag Jr. Chair and Associate Dean for Research and Innovation at the Law School. In this series, we spotlight extraordinary individuals whose lives and work have shaped their legal profession, advanced the frontiers of knowledge, and inspired future generations. Today's guest is Rama Elluru, a leader at the intersection of law, policy, and emerging technologies. Rama serves as the Senior Director for Governance and Intellectual Property at the Special Competitive Studies Project, a nonprofit initiative founded by former Google CEO Eric Schmidt to strengthen America's long-term competitiveness in artificial intelligence and other critical technologies. Rama brings a blend of interdisciplinary expertise spanning computer science, philosophy, biochemistry, and law to some of the most pressing policy challenges of our time. Prior to her work at SCSP, she served as an administrative patent judge at the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, where she helped shape high-stakes decisions in patent law. At SCSP, Rama leads efforts to ensure that U.S. innovation is grounded in responsible governance, robust intellectual property protections, and strategic foresight. She has played a central role in major initiatives such as the AI Plus Expo for National Competitiveness, which convenes thought leaders, technologists, and policymakers to explore the future of AI across sectors like biotechnology, semiconductors, and energy. Welcome, Rama, to Profiles in Leadership.
Thank you, Darrell. Thank you for a very kind and generous introduction.
Easy when it's true. Let's start from the beginning, your formative years. Tell us a bit about your family and your growing up years.
Sure. One of my favorite topics. So I was born here in the United States. My dad was here from India on a teaching visa. He had a PhD in physics. Crystallography was his specialization. So he was here on a teaching visa. That expired when
Which means what for our less savvy listeners?
So understanding the structure of crystals, like for example, proteins, which now is done by AI and other software, but back then it was using high capable microscopes and such tools to understand the structure of certain molecules. His teaching visa expired and we moved back to India. He was like, well, I want to get my family and my children back to the United States where there's a lot of opportunities. So we moved back when I was about 9 years old. By then, he had changed professions into software engineering. And he came back to work at Texas Christian University in Fort Worth, Texas. That was my first exposure to computers. So I spent a significant part of my childhood in Texas. And then I came to law school here in Virginia, Washington and Lee Law School in Lexington, Virginia. And then after law school, I spent a few years in Richmond, clerking for the Fourth Circuit Office of Staff Counsel. And then I moved up to the DC area, where I attended Georgetown to get a master's in biochemistry and molecular biology. And I've been in the area since then. Started at a small litigation firm, and then someone's like, you should go into patent law. And I'm like, well, what's that? And they're like, well, it's a perfect blend of your background in law and science and technology. So I clerked for the Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit, which handles appeals from patent cases across the district courts across the United States. And then the first the International Trade Commission, and then the Court of Appeals for Federal Circuit. Practiced at a few law firms here in the area, and then I went to the United States Patent and Trademark Office, and then transitioned into policy.
And so what were some of your favorite memories from those years?
I've had some great opportunities. All of them have been wonderful. I have had a very diverse background, but it's always revolved around science and technology. I come from a science and technology family, and so I was always captivated by science and what it means, what it can do, how we can shape it. So I think clerking for the federal circuit was a great experience in being able to see the broad nature of intellectual property law. Um, my time at the United States Patent and Trademark Office as an administrative patent judge implementing new regulations for under the American Invents Act was a great fun experience as well. Um, my time as a software engineer back after college at General Dynamics, working on software for fighter jets was also very interesting. So it's all been a great journey.
So when we talk about your background, I was struck by how interdisciplinary it is. You've got computer science, you've got philosophy, you've got law, you've got biochemistry. How has that education influenced your approach to AI and IP?
So again, I mean, it's my background has always been around technology, but you can't really understand technology unless you see it from all different angles, right? Like from the technology angle, from the law angle, from the policy angle. And now I've been able to see it from all those different angles. So, for example, if everyone talks about how AI should be for public good, but what does that mean if you don't understand what AI is capable of, what opportunities it presents? How do you develop or provide recommendations for legislation and regulations if you don't understand what the limitations of technology are or how it can go off the rails? So I think you have to really understand technology from all the different facets to really be able to shape it.
And then when you were at the USPTO, you're administrative patent law judge. Um, how did those years affect how you look at AI and AI governance today?
Well, I think that I joined the Patent Trademark Office in 2012 and worked on some of those first few cases under
Mhm.
the American Invents Act. So it was a time that we were implementing these new regulations. So it was sort of like a startup at the USPTO. And I think it really helped sort of with critical thinking. And again, it brought in, what is the purpose of the American Invents Act? What do we want out of this? And so how should what do these regulations mean? And how should we be putting them into practice? So it was just a great experience in implementing regulations and understanding policy.
So SCSP, how did that come out? Did Eric Schmidt give you a call one day and say, well, Rama, we really want you to be part of our outfit?
Not quite like that. So I was at the USPTO serving as an administrative patent judge. I was working on AI and IP policy at the time. The executive director of the National Security Commission on AI. The National Security Commission on AI was an independent commission that was stood up by Congress. Congress stood up the commission because they were seeing two different signals, one from China saying, hey, we are organizing around this new emerging technology called AI, and one signal from Silicon Valley saying, hey, there's this new transformative technology coming your way, guys, and it's really going to change our society. So Congress stood up the NSCAI to really look at the intersection of AI and related technologies and its impacts on national security. The National Security Commission on AI provided a final report in 2021. It was a very successful commission. A lot of those recommendations throughout the commission's life, as well as from that final report, were adopted by Congress and many more by the administration as well. And when that commission dissolved by statute, Eric Schmidt, the chair of the commission, stood up this nonprofit, nonpartisan initiative. And like I said at the time, I was at the when National Security Commission AI was stood up, I was administrative patent judge at the USPTO. The executive director of the NSCAI was looking for detailees from the government because he had a limited budget. So the director at the time, former director Andre Iancu, asked if I was interested in being detailed to the NSCAI. I came to talk to the executive director, Elluru at the same time, and he told me about the mission, and I was sold. And I told him that he couldn't talk about national security without talking about intellectual property. He's like, well, what do you mean? And because he was not familiar with intellectual property. So I try to connect the dots between intellectual property and what it meant for innovation and what innovation. Of course, he knew that was the center of national security. So he gave me the opportunity. I joined the NSCAI. I worked on responsible AI as well as ethics with respect to AI. And then as that commission dissolved, Eric Schmidt, who was the chair of the commission, stood up this nonprofit, nonpartisan initiative.
You know, that trajectory, it's almost like the founding of this nation, right? You were there when we first really started thinking about AI governance, the things that we talk about today in everyday parlance, AI, national security, and IP, of course they go together. Responsible AI governance, of course they go together. But back then, it was not at all obvious, as you yourself shared. And I just want our listeners and viewers to know that you were involved in some really path-breaking, path-finding work there. And I think that that journey continues. And some of the things that you're doing today, 5, 10 years from now, are going to be everyday parlance. But these are the things which is sort of making up as we go along, building the airplane in the air. How was that experience like?
Absolutely. Just like you said, I remember in 2019 when we first had our summit, which was just a convening of government and government leaders, academia, and industry leaders. And we started talking about how China, and we were in a global competition with China, and everyone was like, you guys are just so extreme. Like, what do you mean China's, a threat? And when we started also talking about AI, we talked to a lot of people on the Hill about artificial intelligence, and at that time, the education and awareness of AI is not what it is now. It was pre-Chat GPT, even though AI has been around since the 1950s. Not a lot of people were familiar with the technology. And that was one of the best things about ChatGPT when it came out in November of 22. It really brought an understanding, or at least some semblance of understanding of AI to the mainstream.
So give us a glimpse into the crystal ball. What should people expect in this space 5, 10 years from now, both in terms of AI, the technology itself, but also AI governance?
Well, like I said, I've been working in AI since 2019, and that was 6 years ago. And the changes that AI has had on national security and society in Asia in general has been enormous already. It's a really fast-moving technology. It's accelerating faster and faster. So I think even 5, 10 years from now, I think our lives will be different. And we're just now starting to see AI adoption across our businesses, across our personal lives. I think that's only going to increase. And I think only AI capabilities are going to be enormous 5 to 10 years from right now.
It,
Our only limitation really is our imagination.
it is something, is AI something that you use every day personally in your daily life? And how do you do it?
Sure. I do use a large language model in my personal and in my professional life. I use it for different things. I've used it for recommendations when I'm traveling. I've used it different questions. I asked it actually about my family ancestry. And it told me things that I didn't know before. And I shared it with my mother, who shared it with my extended family. I've used it to help me, for example, draft talking points if I'm giving a presentation. I've used a large language model to help me draft papers. So I've definitely used AI for those sorts of idea explorations and ideation, as well as writing projects.
How concerned are you about hallucinations?
Right, and we've seen that. We've seen AI hallucinations, especially when AI is being used to write legal briefs in court. So an AI hallucination is when an AI sort of makes up facts. And AI is designed to provide an answer to a question. So it's going to give you an answer. And it's based on probabilities. The answer is based on probabilities. That's how, a large language model works. But if it's not trained on good data, or if it doesn't have a good probability, it's still going to give you an answer. It just doesn't tell you, well, it's not likely that this isn't the answer, but here's an answer. It doesn't really tell you what the probability is. It just gives you the best the best answer that it can give you. And sometimes that's just it's a false answer. It's a false output. So for example, when lawyers use AI tools for writing legal briefs, the most common hallucination is making up case sites. And lawyers have been reprimanded, by judges for not really cite checking their briefs and so on.
And your family history, you're comfortable, it's all true?
And some of it was validated by extended family. Some of it is probably because record keeping, especially back then in India, wasn't great. So, but it kind of checked out.
So talk about policy implementation. A lot of what you do is by nature very technical, complicated. Um, how do you translate that into actionable policy?
Yeah. So again, I think it's understanding where we want to be and getting, what kind of policy needs to be in place to get there. So right now we're in this global competition, right? And the global tech competition really means whoever is going to be the leader globally in AI and other emerging technologies like energy and manufacturing and so forth is really going to be able to dictate whose economy is the biggest, who has the mightiest military, whose societies are going to prosper. So that's really what's at the center of the tech competition. And there's a lot of things, a lot of levers that can be pulled to make sure that our innovation system is actually robust and serving society. So I think it's really about figuring out what it is we want and how to get there, and making sure not only that we have the sort of strategic vision for what that looks like, but the tactical recommendations on how to get there. So for example, if we make a recommendation on funding, well, how much and where should it go and how should it be spent?
And in the IP space, what are some 2 or 3 policy levers that you would pull to say we need to get this right in order to get our AI policy right?
So I think intellectual property rights, copyrights, patents, trademarks, as well as trade secrets, they provide the incentives for innovation. It's the protect side, the promote side, I'm sorry, the promote side of promoting innovation. What are they provide the incentives. Some of these technologies are really resource intensive. So what is the incentive for someone to invent something, to make something, to even come up with the idea of something and bring it to market? Intellectual property rights often provide that incentive. So I think making sure that our intellectual property rights are clear and provide clarity and certainty for inventors to say, here, if you do this, you are going to be rewarded by a limited monopoly. By giving you a limited monopoly. So I think that's, that the certainty and clarity in intellectual property laws, I think is something that we need here. AI, this technology is very different from historical technologies. So I think it pushes the boundaries of all our frameworks, our existing frameworks, including our intellectual property regime. So obviously one of the prominent questions in these IP debates is the eligibility of patent protection for inventions that are created with the use of AI. That's an issue with respect to patent rights as well as copyright rights. What do you do when an AI was used either in an invention or a creation? How much is it afforded protection or not? I think that's
No, go ahead.
I think that's a question that the courts as well as USPTO has spoken on. But again, this technology is evolving so quickly. Those frameworks will we have to rethink and revision our IP frameworks to make sure that we are still providing the incentives for innovation.
So first, talking about clarity, do you think the rules are sufficiently clear where an inventor can use AI and still get a patent for it? Is it clear enough for an author who is thinking of using AI to get copyright for it?
So I think those issues are, sort of the scope of that is going to be worked out by courts. The USPTO as well as courts have said, yeah, you're still eligible for patent protection, patent protection if you use an AI tool. The Copyright Office has said if you use an AI tool in creating something, the part that was created by the AI is not eligible for copyright protection, but but the other parts that are human created are protected.
So let's talk about tensions. And this is something that you flip open the news on any given day, you see any number of creatives on one side and AI developers seem to be on the other side. And with creatives, they say, well, we have IP rights in this. We want strong IP rights. Is that a false dichotomy between having strong IP rights and having strong AI models?
Again, I think at the center is human ingenuity. I think we always need to protect human ingenuity. We always talk about human agency as well, and is that humans should have agency over artificial intelligence. So we should always be thinking about looking at it from the lens of humans. How can we elevate humans? How can we make humans better with this technology? How can we make humans innovate better for society using tools like AI? So I think that human ingenuity in creation should always be at the forefront of our policies and our laws.
So you have a big event coming up. It's the I Plus Expo. What should folks know about that event?
The first thing they should know is that it's free. It's June 2nd through 4th at the Washington Convention Center. It's 3 days long. We have all kinds of programming. We have panels, we have fireside chats, we have an AI hackathon on one floor of the expo. We have drone demonstrations, a drone competition. We have, I believe, of about 130 exhibitors that will be demonstrating all kinds of AI technologies. And we have a talent marketplace where entities looking for talent and people looking for jobs can be connected. So it's going to be incredible. Nothing like that has been happened before in Washington, D.C., except for last year when we did our first one. And this year, last year was 2 days. This year it's going to be 3 days. And last year we had over 10,000 registered attendees. This year we're expecting twice, maybe 3 times as many people. And
You're doing better than Taylor Swift.
and it's free. And it's free. So I encourage everyone to come attend.
So you've got drone exhibits, you've got XR exhibits. So what's your idea in putting this event? How do you draw such amazing crowds?
Well, this is really about demonstrating our nation's AI capabilities. And also demonstrating to the public what AI is. It's one thing to read about AI. It's one thing to maybe use ChatGPT or read about other different kinds of AI technologies and their uses, and then coming to see it in person, having that tangible exposure to AI. I think public perceptions about AI is very important for adoption. And AI adoption is very important for innovation, and then innovation is very important for our global competition. So, for example, in China, Chinese citizens have a very optimistic view of AI and its capabilities, and it's not the same here. And so I think that really hurts our adoption, and that so
And why is that? Why is it different here?
I think one of the difference is not enough exposure, not enough awareness and education about AI. So that's one of our pillars, mission pillars, is to raise public awareness about AI and other related technologies.
And do the Chinese do that in China? Are they constantly exposing their people to AI in this way so that they are more receptive to it?
I think so. I've read about various AI exhibits that go across different communities, different AI innovation hubs that they have, and they're always demonstrating those capabilities to its citizens. So yeah, I think the difference is really just exposure and knowing about the technology.
So looking at that 10,000 that came last year and the over 20,000 you're expecting this year, they're not clearly just from the DMV area. Where are they from?
All over the world. So we have exhibitors coming from Silicon Valley, of course, but we also have our foreign policy team has organized teams to bring together partners and allies for discussions. We have, like I said, over 130 exhibitors, demonstrations from not only across the country, but globally as well.
So how do you foot the bill for space big enough for 20,000 people?
We are a nonprofit. So it is all philanthropy. We do have sponsors, some really big sponsors, like Rhombus, and so it is all philanthropy, mostly philanthropy.
And if folks want to contribute or exhibit or donate, how can they do that?
So I encourage you to go to our SCSP.ai website where you can register to attend. Our exhibit list is closed. Now we're really in just execution stage, but you can register to attend and come all 3 days. Bring your family, bring your friends.
So talk to us a little bit about the AI verticals, because that's a really distinctive part of the expo. You've got biotech, you've got semiconductors, you've got energy. How do you pick these areas, first of all? And then what are some of the highlights in each of these areas?
Sure. So we did research on the global competition, and we found six battlefields of tech sectors like AI, like compute, biotechnology, uh, advanced networks, advanced manufacturing, and energy. Those were the six sort of battlefields where this competition is really taking place to be the global leader in technology. And so AI is a general purpose technology across all of these verticals. So we had different summits across, I believe it was the last year and a half, where we had, for example, the AI plus biotechnology summit. We had an AI plus energy summit, AI plus robotics summit. Despite the fact that there's differences across these verticals, there was also some similarity. So, for example, how we need to really invest in the research and development in these different areas, how we need to either build the infrastructure because it's not there in the first place, or modernize the infrastructure. So, for example, in energy, we have our grid system, electric grid system is our legacy systems really. And so we really need to modernize it for this AI and emerging technology era. And so I think investments was one common theme, R&D, as well as talent, building the talent in all of these different verticals so that we can, leverage that talent to make sure that we have robust innovation.
Are you the what should we say, the pioneer person in your position?
No, I don't think I'm the pioneer in this position. I just have had lucky opportunities to be able to really bring my past experiences together. It's been a wonderful journey to be able to have that technical background combining with my legal background and now with my policy background. So it's been it's been interesting. It's been fun, and I think it's very important. I think this technology is really going to shape our future, and as well as, of course, next generation. So I just want to I want to help make sure we get it right.
I'm thinking of how someone would even start writing a job description for what you do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, it's pretty varied. It's pretty varied. I am the senior director of AI governance, but AI governance is very broad. So I work on issues like data, which we be doing about data. We don't have really a national data strategy on how we should be leveraging our whole of nation data. So, for example, the public sector data, the government is the biggest holder of data globally. But we're not doing the as much as we can to make sure that we're really leveraging data to its maximum. So, for example, we need to do better in making sure that data is more accessible, it's more usable, and it's where the people who can actually do something with it can access it.
So how closely do you work with the government at the federal level, the state level, the local levels, and how good a job are they doing at listening to what you have to say?
So when the National Security Commission started in 2019, I think policymakers were not as aware and educated about AI as they are now. But now I do think Congress and the administration really has a good grasp on what this technology means for our global ambitions, what it means for society, what it means for national security, what it means for our economy, national security. So I think everyone is working towards that goal of making sure we have, everything we need to make sure that our society thrives.
And is this bipartisan? Is this nonpartisan?
I would say our initiative is nonpartisan, but I think these issues, AI, is a bipartisan issue. I think everyone understands the global competition and what it means, what's at stake for leading in AI and other technologies.
And are there aspects of AI governance where there's tension between different sectors, like you see, for example, in the patentable subject matter space, where there seems to be tension between what the biopharma industry wants and what the software industry wants? Are there similar tensions in the AI space?
I think the biggest debate in AI governance is regulation, if we need regulation and how much regulation we need. I think there's been lessons learned from the European Union's AI Act. They moved forward with a comprehensive regulatory framework, and we don't have a comprehensive AI regulatory framework here.
Should we have one?
I don't know if we need a comprehensive regulatory framework, but I do think safeguards are important. And I think this administration has recognized that in the executive order that it issued in January of this year, saying that global leadership in AI is really important. And they called for different departments and agencies to provide different reports. And so the Office of Management and Budget, for example, issued 2 implementing policy memos directing departments and agencies to adopt and procure AI tools for the public good. And in those memos, they do talk about, responsible AI. They talk about security for the public and, security of protecting privacy, liberties and freedoms as well. So I do think those things are important. I think they have to be very directed and intentional to so that we can get to where we want, so we can shape technologies to what we want it to be. And so I think that is sort of the difference between moving out with a regulatory framework before really understanding what we want out of this technology and how to get it out of this technology.
So let's talk about global competition. And that seems to be one of the drivers and reasons for SCSP's existence. Is it necessarily a zero-sum game between the US and China, or can there be some kind of collaboration, cooperation, way forward together?
I think there will have to be collaboration on certain issues. For example, if we want to talk, just like there is with nuclear arms, if we want this not to be an existential threat, then we are going to have some sort of collaboration worldwide. I think with respect to China, we take a promote and protect stance, and by protect I mean things like export controls for compute, and by protect making sure I mean like making sure that our innovation system ecosystem has everything it needs to be robust.
And is there a counterpart of SCSP in China that you can work with to help promote these shared visions?
I don't think there is a counterpart to SCSP, but that's a great question. I will actually ask our foreign policy team. I don't think there's anything that's very similar to SCSP, since they are a state-driven body that their industry is very tightly close-knit with its government. So
who do you talk to, or do you not talk to anyone on the other side?
I personally have had an engagement with some academics from the PRC. And I'm sure our foreign policy team when they have these international talks, I'm sure that they've engaged there as well.
In other parts of the world, do people say, how do you get this started? We want one too.
We have had different countries in the EU say that they would like to start something like SCSP. I know Canada's actually expressed interest as well in starting something like SCSP.
And is there a capacity building effort going on?
Um, I,
Collaborations?
we are always engaging with our partners and allies in different government bodies as well as private and academic bodies in other countries that
So,
are
so when you say partners and allies, are your partners and allies the same as the United States partners and allies, or do you take a different approach?
and United States partners and allies is yeah, that's what I mean when I say partners and allies.
So, so you're nonprofit. At the same time, you're totally aligned with the government. How different are you from a government agency?
We were NSCAI was a government agency, but we, like I said, are a nonprofit organization here. So we're not don't have any not a government agency or not have
Not
any formal ties with the government.
okay. So one more question before we move back to you. In terms of regulatory barriers, do you think we should have more or less? You talk about the need for safeguards, right? But at the same time, the US is a lot less uh, uh, gung-ho about saying what we can or cannot do about AI than you. Uh, at what point do you think we would have reached a sweet spot as we move ahead? Whether in terms of looking at other countries for examples, or looking at specific goals in terms of what kind of regulations that we should set. What would you say to our audience and listeners out there?
So I think the biggest barrier is making sure that there's sufficient communication between the government and industry. Other technologies like the internet and the GPS came out of government. Artificial intelligence is coming out of the private industry, but government still needs to set the strategy for what we want this technology to do for us. So there needs to be that public-private collaboration and that communication to ensure that the government is setting the strategy and industry is doing the implementation of design and development of AI.
So by any measure, you are a leader. Who do you look to as models of leadership, and do you do any mentorship, teaching, uh, uh, communication to the next generation in what you do?
So I will say coming up in sciences and technology, even intellectual property patent litigation, I was often the only female in the room. So that presented challenges, and I want to help my younger sisters not have to face those challenges because life offers many challenges and that there shouldn't be unnecessary ones. So I do like to mentor younger females who are interested in science and technology, who are interested in patent law, who are interested in tech policy. And I do my best when to reach out as well as answer calls when they are looking for mentorship.
And if they say, I want to be mentored by Rama, what organization should they join to be able to connect with you?
Well, they should come to our expo, and they should meet in person.
1 out of 20,000 people, how are they going to find you?
There's going to be an app, and you can find me.
Okay. Let's also talk about your your North Star. You've got to make decisions, sometimes trade-offs. What do you fall back on in deciding what's the right decision from a moral, from a legal, from a integrity perspective? Where do you get all that from?
I think my past experiences, my family, the values that I grew up with, the values that brought me here to the United States, um, and the diverse experiences that I've had about what's good and what's bad. As I said, I was a software engineer. I done some science work in biochemistry, seen lots of technologies as a patent lawyer. So I think you have sort of a gut instinct about what technology should be doing to help society, further society. And so what is the policy and what are the laws that'll get us there?
Well, you also did philosophy. So are you more of an analytical person? Or are you more of a, well, I would say philosophy can be analytical too, but analytical in a different way.
Yes, that's exactly right. So I was a double major as computer science and philosophy, and my philosophy concentration was epistemology, which is the philosophy of knowledge of logic. So there was that tie there in college between my philosophy concentration and my computer science, which was, I believe, was called, I focused on smart systems. I remember my thesis, my senior year was a if-then loop chess player. So it was a very, very, very antiquated chess player. So that was really the connection there in college.
So final question, what's next for each of these three? What's next for the AI Plus Expo? What's next for SCSP? What's next for Rama Elluru?
Great question. I think the AI Expo is really going to be a culmination of our past year. And, I think it'll be a great testament to how our nation as a whole has advanced in AI and other capabilities. So it's going to be great to see that showcase. I think after SCSP, after the Expo, SCSP will continue to do what it does of researching and providing recommendations for how American can strengthen its leadership in AI and other technologies. I suspect we'll have other convenings. I suspect we'll have other reports as well as other presentations. And I love what I do. I love, like I said, I love technology. I love looking at it from my diverse experiences from the technology aspects to the legal aspects to the policy aspects. So I want to continue being able to combine all of those skills in the AI world.
Well, thank you for applying your polymath abilities in such an energetic and inspiring way. Thank you for serving on our advisory board. We are always inspired by the time that we get with you, but also, and for present purposes, thank you for joining us on this very special episode of Profiles in Leadership.
Thank you very much. I sincerely mean that for having me here tonight. This was a great conversation, and it's always wonderful to speak with you.
Thank you.